How's it going, everyone, and welcome into the SFS channel. My name is Gavin, and today we're talking some early Week 13 trade advice here with 5 wide receivers I'm all over and want to buy right now. As we get into this week, we're finishing up Week 12 action tonight with the Seattle Seahawks and the Washington football team. And before we get started today, this episode is presented by Thrive Fantasy, where we make our weekly prop bets. And of course, since we do have a primetime game, we've got a prop bet. Here is my prop bet for this evening. I'm taking the over on DK Metcalf and Antonio Gibson. Antonio Gibson's got a fantastic matchup against Seattle's defense this week. I think they're one of the more exploitable rushing opponents in the league in terms of the success opposing running backs are able to have. And if Gibson's volume translates over from what it's been the past couple of games, I like that a lot. And then both DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, as I'm recording this, are both set at 65.5 receiving yards. So you could really take the over on either of them. They can both get that done in one play, to be honest. It's probably not going to happen that way, but it might only take a few receptions from each of these talented players to cross that border. So that's a move I like here, Week 3 with Russell Wilson under center after that injury and coming back from that finger issue. I think he can take steps forward and have a successful game here. So when you go check out Thrive and sign up for a new account, use promo code SIZZLE when depositing between $10 and $100. That'll get you a 100% deposit match bonus from that $10 to $100 increment. And then in a few days, once you've played a game and played a prop contest on their site, they'll let me know that you've went ahead and done that, and we'll get you set up with a free month of SFS Gold on our website, sizzlefantasy.com, for checking them out and supporting their platform. So with that being said, thank you guys so much for tuning in. 5 must-buy wide receivers for Week 13. Let's hit the intro, and let's get started. Alrighty, so the first wide receiver I'm loving going out and buying for Week 13 action, and I'll address the concerns right off the bat here, is Elijah Moore. So again, we are going to talk some reasons why I think that some fantasy managers might be a bit cautious to go out and make this move, and I would say that there are justified reasonings for why one wouldn't go out and make a deal for Elijah Moore. But I'm going to explain and get into the details of why I would still try and go out and put in a fair offer for a player that I think has a heck of a lot of upside down the stretch. So Elijah Moore is a rookie for the Jets, but the main concern here is the quarterback play on a week-to-week basis for New York. Now, it's been a revolving door as of the last few weeks now for the Jets offense, whether it's Mike White, we've seen Josh Johnson in there. He actually came in and took a couple snaps for the Jets offense this past game. And then we've got Zach Wilson, the second overall pick in this past year's draft, who was obviously the intended starter, but he has been dinged up. He actually got beat up a little bit in this game as well and left for a brief amount of time. But it's been Zach Wilson's inconsistencies that have also given some fantasy managers some reason for drawback and how bullish they want to be with their assessment of Elijah Moore's fantasy value going forward. And I totally get it. It's not a 100% guaranteed situation to erupt on a week-to-week basis. And I would say that Elijah Moore doesn't have the safest floor in the world. But again, what I do love here is the upside. And if you can acquire Elijah Moore as a wide receiver 3 or 4 for your roster and have the option for in a 1 or 2 flex league to have him fulfilling that role in your lineups, that's where I think that Elijah Moore has a lot of opportunity to be a great add for us late in the season here. So only 4 grabs, 46 yards against Houston this week. He did have a couple of really impressive plays. But again, Elijah Moore is the most explosive player in this Jets offense. He's their best skill player. They need to create an emphasis of getting him the football, and when that is repeatedly the case week over week, the numbers are going to follow suit. He was super hyped up this past week, and again, the matchup was great. I think that Houston was a really nice opportunity for him to have a great showing, and he wasn't able to deliver on that hype. But I'm not ready to back off now that the numbers pulled back slightly for 1 week here now. Obviously, 8 points in PPR scoring is not all that spectacular, not something to get yourselves too excited about. But what I do love is Miami, Jacksonville, and Tampa Bay during the fantasy playoffs. We saw the Colts this week, even against Tampa Bay, have over 300 yards passing and really exploit this injury-decimated secondary. They do have a pass rush, but but Zach Wilson is willing to be a gunslinger and give Elijah Moore some shots downfield. And then Miami and Jacksonville, 2 opportunities as well where you can make some big plays. We've seen Miami's defense take some steps forward in terms of their ball hawking ability, but if the Jets are trailing for a large part of this football game, all the better. That means they're going to be passing a lot more throughout the course of that game. So I like those 3 matchups during the fantasy playoffs. I think that gives Elijah some more great upside on top of the talent and the ceiling that the situation offensively already provides for him. That's why I'm comfortable still going out and making a buy offer even after he had a down week despite all of the hype. Darnell Mooney for the Chicago Bears. This was someone that we've been high on all fantasy season long, dating back to the draft. He was one of our favorite sleepers during the 2021 offseason. He's had a slow process to start out this year, but man, the last month or so, he has really come on strong here. Darnell Mooney is starting to take grasp and take a hold of the number 1 most productive role in the receiving game for this Bears offense. Now, that's not to say that he's the best wide receiver in this offense, but his stats have been better than that of Allen Robinson, who's been dealing with injury as of late, hasn't played in the last 2 contests. And Darnell Mooney is showing he can step up to the plate and be a number 1 on a weekly basis. And when you look at the schedule, I think there's a lot of opportunity for him to continue to put up these nice ceiling numbers. He's got 14.5 or more fantasy points and half PPR scoring in 3 straight games. That's something I'd love to see. Again, he's been the most consistently productive Bears wide receiver this season. And if you take a look here, he's got 120 or more yards in back-to-back performances. That is impressive to me because he's able to find fantasy points without scoring touchdowns. He's not a dominant red zone threat, but what he is an explosive athlete that can stretch the field and get explosive plays, chunk yardage on low volume or low receptions. Although he did see 16 targets 2 weeks ago, he's still finding ways to get the job done in a variety of ways, whether it's scoring a touchdown against Pittsburgh. That's what really catalyzed that offensive production. Then you look back and he's got over 120 yards 2 weeks ago against the Ravens. He did that, only 5 grabs on his 16 targets, under 33% catch rate. But you're still talking about a very talented, very explosive player. And then this week against the Lions, which was probably the easiest matchup of the 3, he really looked the part of the number 1. Andy Dalton was looking for him all over the field, and Mooney was making plays. He had over 100 yards, I believe it was, or it's either 97 or just over 100 yards at the end of the first half on Thanksgiving. So you give Darnell Mooney a long week. I love the potential, the upside here. Him and David Montgomery are 2 of my favorite buy low options right now for long-term playoff projections. I think that they've got a lot of upside in store, and that's why I'm high on these 2 down the stretch. Brandon Aiyuk, this situation just got a heck of a lot more interesting this week as Deebo Samuel went down for San Francisco. Now, after the game against Minnesota, Kyle Shanahan said that Deebo Samuel is going to have a MRI done on his injured groin, which was the reason he left that contest. That leaves Brandon Aiyuk for a heck of a lot more food on the plate in terms of his weekly target share and usage in this offense, and he is certainly talented enough to handle that workload. Now, Deebo Samuel also, interestingly enough, has been playing a lot of running back lately. He had 6 rushing attempts for 66 yards and 2 touchdowns against the Vikings prior to getting injured. He only had 1 catch for 12 yards. But if Aiyuk is left as really the top pass catcher in this offense outside of George Kittle, that's going to skyrocket his fantasy value and make him a lot more versatile for fantasy lineups. Now, buy him quickly while you have the opportunity. He's been producing numbers and looking very good for the last month of the season. Now, his consistency has not been perfect by any means, but his route running, what I'm seeing with my eye test when he's out there on the field, I was talking about the Rams game where the 49ers absolutely dominated time of possession and just really controlled that whole contest. We were talking about this last week. I was watching Aiyuk's routes on the TV screen on run plays where he was simply just running a dummy route to get and draw the defensive back away from the run lane, or whether he was just running a route and not getting thrown the football. He had DBs falling over. He was separating by multiple yards. He looks fantastic, extremely twitchy, at 91 yards on just 3 catches against the Vikings. And his closing schedule isn't all that difficult either. So this is a situation where you could get yourself into prime-time Brandon Aiyuk fantasy potential down the stretch the last month of this season. It was Aiyuk during the fantasy playoffs last year that was putting in dominant performance week in and week out and really making differences for us during the 2020 season. So I'm really excited for Aiyuk, for a 5th-round pick who was largely a disappointment throughout most of the season. Coming on the second half of the year, this has been one of the the more fun things we've watched happen this year, and one of the redeeming players of the season that has really turned around the script of what was happening to him early on this year. Hunter Renfrow. This is another interesting one that I didn't think we really haven't talked about Hunter Renfrow here at SFS much throughout this season. We've had him as a waiver wire ad a couple times, but now that we don't have Henry Ruggs in this offense, and Deshaun Jackson's making plays here and there, but Hunter Renfrow has really stepped up, and he's now owned in over 80% of leagues, so I guess for the 20% of you out there, I would go roster him up. But he's really started to become a productive fantasy asset, and when I've dug deeper and deeper into the numbers, I've really liked what I've seen from him. I love his play style, and I love the potential floor value that we could get out of him in PPR leagues, particularly down the stretch of this season. Now, before what I'm about to say gets taken out of context, I'm just gonna put that warning and disclaimer out there. I am not going to say that Hunter Renfrow is or is going to be this player down the stretch of this season. However, when I watch Hunter Renfrow play and when I watch his style of route running, I see a lot of Cooper Kupp. Now, again, I'm going to restate myself here. In no way, shape, or form am I saying Hunter Renfrow is going to turn into Cooper Kupp, the wide receiver one, down the stretch of the 2021 season. That is not the case. However, let's talk about the connections that we have between Renfrow and Cooper Kupp. Both of them are very shifty, very versatile, and very savvy route runners out of the slot. The next thing here, Hunter Renfrow and Cooper Kupp actually worked together this offseason. During NFL training camp, the Rams and the Raiders had joint practices together, and Hunter Renfrow and Cooper Kupp were taking notes on each other, squaring off, and obviously, well, they weren't actually playing against each other, but they were watching one another from the sideline work during those in-practice scrimmages. So they've had a lot of not necessarily one-on-one time together during the course of the summer of 2021, but they have seen each other's work on display over and over again. And you've heard probably earlier on this season, Renfrow and Kupp were kind of exchanging route running techniques and giving each other little insider trader tips to, how to run routes a certain way and how to use their technique to best separate from defensive backs. And we've seen that signature like wiggle out route or sit route, whatever you want to call it. It is, and you might not know what I'm talking about, but it is an absolutely filthy route combo that these two run from inside the slot down the red zone. These players are very comparable in the way they play now. I think Cooper Kupp is still the better player today. I think that Cooper Kupp is far and away the better fantasy asset today. But Hunter Renfrow has the chance to fulfill that role. And I'm going to again put that in quotation marks because Cooper Kupp's target floor this season is 9 and Hunter Renfrow's is not. And we're just going to say that right off the bat here. However, he does have 8 7+ target games this season. So he is getting volume. I don't know if he's nearly, and I'm going to say I don't think he's nearly as explosive. I'm going to go ahead and say that right now. I don't think he is quite as explosive as Cooper Kupp either for that LA Rams offense in terms of his ability to win deep routes. Now, Hunter Renfrow is coming off a career day against Dallas on Thanksgiving, over 130 yards receiving, and he did make some plays downfield. But again, we are managing our expectations here. But mainly what I love about Hunter Renfrow down the stretch of the season is when you're getting 7+ targets that amount of times in a given year, and now you're talking about an offense with Darren Waller potentially missing some time, he looks like the most reliable option for Derek Carr in this passing offense. So I think Renfrow might see a healthy amount of looks, a healthy amount of volume headed his direction the rest of the way this season. Hopefully in a PPR league, that means you're looking at somewhere around a 9, 10, 11 point fantasy floor on a week-to-week basis. If he's getting those 7 targets, catching, say, 5 passes and getting you 50 yards, when he finds the end zone, he can put a nice little cherry on top and push it to that 16, approaching that ceiling territory. So Hunter Renfrow, someone I think that doesn't command too high of a price on the trade market. I'd go out and make some offers if you're looking for a steady and dependable flex play. Most importantly, that's what I see him being here down the stretch of this regular season. And then finally here, Ja'Marr Chase. Now, we're going to talk about T. Higgins tomorrow in some other trade advice episodes, but Ja'Marr Chase is the most advantageous wide receiver to buy right now with elite ceiling potential. Now, the schedule down the stretch is not super easy for Cincinnati, but Ja'Marr Chase and Joe Burrow are still a combination and a connection I'm willing to bet on. Ja'Marr's numbers the last 3 weeks have not nearly been as spectacular as they were early in the year. They're not hitting nearly the amount of huge plays downfield that they were early on. However, Ja'Marr even in 36-yard outing against Pittsburgh this week, and I will make another note here. Ja'Marr Chase, when asked to make the exceptional play, did so this week. He had a really impressive play on 3rd and 17 where he nearly picked up the 3rd down and moved the sticks. He got 16, needed 17. Ja'Marr, he is very capable of making those plays happen, and he will down the stretch of the season. Now, it was a 41-10 beatdown of the Steelers, so again, the Bengals had no incentive or no reason to risk the possession of the football by passing downfield in the second half of this game, and that is a main reason as to why Ja'Marr Chase did not have to put up that much yardage, but he did average 13 yards per reception. He had 3 grabs, 39 yards. That was his actual stat line for this game. So going forward, Ja'Marr Chase's ceiling continues to be a very high marker and continues to be something I'm very confident in the rest of the way this season. He is a buy low asset, if you will, right now. Now, I put that buy low into very, we made sure that was an obvious, not really. It's a buy low, but not really, per se, because it's still going to cost you a lot to go out and make an offer for Ja'Marr Chase. The point being here is that you might be able to get him for a discount or to get him for cheaper than the valuation of him would have been, say, a month ago. So what I'm going to say is for those of you that are in leagues where you've got stubborn trade partners, or, at this point, I will just say if you have trade partners in your league who are smart and they are asking a steep price for Ja'Marr Chase, which is what they absolutely should do if they're asking you for a hefty return, maybe don't go out and make this deal because, again, we have seen the floor regress significantly from, say, again, a month ago earlier on this season. However, if you are able to get a discounted price on a Ja'Marr Chase, that's an offer I am definitely going to go out and investigate. At the bare minimum, what I would advise you all to do is to go test the market for Ja'Marr Chase, figure out what his trade price is in your leagues, and then go from there. And I would, another piece of advice here, don't simply go out and ask the league manager or the owner of Ja'Marr Chase in your league what their expected price in return is for Ja'Marr Chase. Rather, make them an offer and see if they have a counter. That way you don't put all the power in their hands for letting them essentially choose what the bid is that you have to give up for Chase. However, again, go test the trade market, see what it's going to cost to get you a top 12 wide receiver rest of season like a Ja'Marr Chase on your hands. And if that trade price is affordable, if it has taken a discount and you can get a little bit of a budget buy here, that's something I'm going to do with Ja'Marr after these 3 more modest outings from him over the past month of the season. Alrighty, those were, again, our 5 must-buy wide receiver targets for Week 13 action presented by Thrive Fantasy. Sign up, use promo code SIZZLE, and deposit between $10 to $100. That'll get you an instant deposit match bonus for however much money you put in, again, up to that $100 marker, and it'll get you that free month of SFS Gold once you play your first contest on their site. So, again, you can rewind through this episode and get back to the intro where I put up my Monday Night Football prop bet for this evening, as this video is going up early Monday morning. So go check that out. You can bet alongside me or choose your own prop bet based off of the different lines they've got out there, and go check them out. So thank you guys so much for watching. Go check out another one of our 2 episodes we have up here on a Monday morning, and I'll see you guys there. Peace out.